Alright, welcome back to turn 50 something in Roots Bloody Roots. I'm not going to leave you waiting for too long. Tenchi won. So good job, Tenchi. This has been a great game. Still go through some of the stuff and see if there's anything interesting or exciting here. But they got a Juggernaut to claim a throne, their prophet, and I don't know what that is. Maybe that's a hero or something. Either way, 3 claims, no bishop fishes. They just did it with 3 other holy 3s. Tenchi's sent a message saying, haha, we won. No, I mean, I love it. The Portent, Satis cast Global Enchantment, I cast Global Enchantment, Assassination Attempt against Andrew Rocket Arm. Let's go ahead and watch this. This should be hilarious. Oh, he didn't just one-shot him with the Frozen Heart. He's not going through his buff cycle. He's doing weird shit. Turns his assassin into a frog who's carrying that comical stack of magic gems and then smashes him in the face. Battle in Abyssia. That was Asphodel just peeking at that. Battle at the Fortress. So this is me overrunning Abyssia. It's not much there, but we can watch the excitement. Meteors, wolves, oh my. These meteors are killing more of my guys than the guys on the wall they're trying to hit. But the overall score was I lost 6 sacreds. Battle in Syrians. This is Satis versus Airyu. Fort battle. Airyu's got nothing. We don't need to watch this. Battle in Hamain. This is, I believe, also a fort battle. Airyu's got a few more guys here, but this is still going to be a rout. And I don't really need to see what sort of threats Satis is going to bust out because, well, they're not going to have a chance. So, here's some elves getting slaughtered. Alright. Events. Anything that could have been exciting? Nope. Alright, and then these were triggered off of thrones. I don't even know what Divine Bulls do, but how does that happen? Satis attacked Abyssia with 0 dudes. If I watch that battle, that's oh, those are the bulls that Satis is, like, the global spawns these bulls to fuck with people. That's hilarious. So this is like a Pretender Chassis except with no magic. But it just shows up and rolls all over you. Growing Fury. Oh, so that berserks all of the bulls. Because, hey, let's see how much trampling happens here. These guys are not moving like this bull isn't. Oh, he has regen too? Oh my goodness. But eventually he just gets melted by all those guys. It only killed PD. I lost another scout, some fort builds, and that. So, everybody's cleared off the map because that's how these things go. I'm curious what that global... Oh, I don't even get to see it because everybody but Tenchi is cleared. That makes sense. hovering over these places, it shows me what sites are there, but I can't actually go onto them and see it. So that's interesting. Tianqi had a lot of really nice land over here for sure. Like this province, 394 income. Oh, shoot, that doesn't really count though because they had the enchantment that doubles everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are some nice provinces, it's just they're not as nice as it looks. So, yeah, recap. I mentioned on turn 40 about what I felt I could have done better with my Pretender design. I basically put too many resists in my Sacreds and just counted them to be tough enough as is, where really I should have made them more killy and used my magic to put the point defense that I actually needed. So that's a nice lesson to learn for next time. Expansion. I've been playing around with this race in single player and figured out how I could expand better. But that said, this is kind of a shitty spot to try to expand out from anyways. I remember like bumping around here, and I want to say that early on some of these had some tough defenders. That said, if you expand with this race, I would definitely recommend pumping out some Spear Warriors early on. It's counterintuitive because these guys seem so shitty with their lack of protection, but it really makes a huge difference whether you can take a province turn 2 or not, and like attack turn 2 to claim the province on the third turn. That controls how many Sacreds you get out, which controls the rest of your expansion. Overall, I expanded to a decent amount of land. When it's all said and done, I had 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24-ish provinces that were like core mine, plus another 10 or so in this area that I was de facto ruler of. So I mean, definitely not a winning amount of land. I mean, we compare that to Tianqi, who had 3 empires worth. But considering how quickly I might have been eliminated with my slow start, I think that I ended up in a respectable position. I was clearly overconfident when I was fighting Abyssia. I was just like, yeah, I'll have Foul Vapors, and they'll have no counter for it, and it'll be great. And they didn't need a counter for it because their Sacreds were just so good on their own. So that's something that I would definitely recommend differently if you play with this race. Alteration has everything. Alteration has your self buffs. It has spells like Earth Meld and later Maws of the Earth to pen people down. It wouldn't have been useful against Abyssia, but against other nations, you could cast Solar Eclipse to basically give all of your troops +3 relative to all of theirs, because all of this nation's Sacreds and Magicians have Spirit Sight. You can make some thugs with Become Eagle and Become Giant, and not Melting Flesh, but Bone Melter. That's something that your Yayas are perfect for, that basically takes out a square at a time. So I definitely should have been spamming that a lot more. So don't get me wrong, enchantment is good for this nation. Foul Vapors is still a powerful spell, and Flaming Arrows is still a powerful spell, amongst other things. But it's not like an automatic get enchantment for everything else. Depending on who you're facing, your counters might be in enchantment or alteration or thaumaturgy or conjuration. And I mean evocation too. Like those meteors that all of your Sun Priests can cast with just one Phoenix Pyre, or one other way to buff up their fire magic. Flaming meteors are very easily massable, and they do a lot of damage. So yeah, it was interesting, exciting. Definitely tactical stuff that I could have done differently. Strategically, how do I feel about how things went? I think that it was the right move to befriend Jotunheim, especially considering that their sacreds would have been even tougher for me to deal with than Abyssia's. It was the right move for me to join in with Asphodel against Abyssia. Trying to join in with Abyssia against Asphodel would have left my land in a better shape, but I think that it would have opened me up to being rushed by Abyssia in a way that the reverse was not true. And Abyssia, being initially more powerful than me, if you have a chance to take down your powerful neighbor at the expense of giving stuff to your weaker neighbor, I think that's a better trade than taking down your weaker neighbor but just making your powerful neighbor even more powerful. That was kind of what happened out here. Was Naba was fighting Jotunheim, and while that happened, Qianqi just got more and more powerful and eventually gobbled them up one by one. I liked the land that I started in for that same reason. Abyssia is in this choke point in the middle of everything. Naba was in this choke point's not the right word because there's not really a choke point here, but they took this whole stripe of territory, which seems powerful on the surface of it. You have access to more places because you control the choke point, but the flip side is that you make more enemies because other people want to go through you. If, for example, Naba, rather than cutting across this land, had expanded north-south, like so, then maybe Naba and Jotunheim could have teamed up against Qianqi. So, where was Qianqi itself? Right here. Although the title incorrectly says Forbidden Forest. Yeah, I guess not all of the titles are wrong. Okay, so okay, this must actually be Qianqi's capital, and just Forbidden Forest is what it would have been named if it wasn't a capital, I guess. It's an interesting bug. So, yeah. And then Shiniyama must have been over here somewhere. But Shiniyama got taken out really early by Ryugujo and Qianqi. Where is Shiniyama? Oh, I'm not going to see it in the captions. But it's probably a high-income province. I'm curious. You'll have to bear with me. Sorry, I kept clicking around looking at the title, but the title is what's warped. There's Shiniyama. It's not in fact Troll Land, it's actually Shiniyama. So that's interesting. There's actually a decent amount of land between Qianqi and Shiniyama, until there wasn't. Ryugujo spawned somewhere around here, I'm sure. Yeah, there's Ryugujo. Very close to Shiniyama. Yeah, just 3 provinces away, I guess. But this was unfortunate for Ryugujo because they were basically boxed into this water while Pelagia took most of it. Speaking of which, Pelagia was... Where were you, Pelagia? There. Okay. So Pelagia expanded fast enough this way to cut Ruga Joe off. And that was basically the ball game in the water. Alright. As far as actually stopping Tianqi from winning, I mean, they're on a different continent, so the only influence that I could have exerted was diplomatically. When I saw the way the winds were blowing, I reached out to everyone who I thought could get involved, to Pelagia, to Jotunheim, to Naba, but they were either unable to help or unwilling. Alright. Another thing I was surprised about that I felt worth mentioning, people stayed away from taking thrones. This throne was never conquered the whole game. This throne was never conquered the whole game. This throne was conquered in the next to last turn. I don't think this throne was ever conquered. So generally, people were much more excited to fight each other rather than to claim the thrones. And that general attitude, I think, helped enable the throne rush, because with the thrones not having people's palisades sitting on top of them, then Tianqi was able to swarm them and conquer them. Like, if at the very least Tianqi had to besiege a fort, then A, that's a whole nother turn they would have taken that people could have been alerted to what was happening. B, besieging forts of other people is intrinsically harder than just attacking a random province. And C, Tianqi might have had to war more people. So, for example, if Abyssia or Asphodel had conquered this throne, then Tianqi would have probably had to either make a non-aggression pact with that player when they were expanding, and then break that non-aggression pact, which would have let that player know something was up, or they would have had to never have made that non-aggression pact in the first place, which would lead that player to be nervous and put more fort protection on it. And so just generally, I would say, maybe it sounds obvious, but if you don't want to lose to a throne rush, conquer some thrones. So that was interesting. Anything else worth noting? I enjoyed this game a lot. I would love to play on Kupka again. I will try to set them up in a future game. I can't promise what I'll do with my Pretender build, but I think that I liked my Pretender chassis. I liked my overall scales plan mostly. There were some tweaks that I would make, which I talked about on turn 40. I liked where I wound up in terms of army composition and battle plans, strategic plans. I think that, if the game went 20 turns longer, then who knows how things would have settled up on our continent, but obviously they were already decided on this continent. So, not bitter in the slightest. Had a great time with great players, and I thank you for joining me. This is my first time creating a narration of a game like this on YouTube, so I'm sure that there's stuff that I could have done better. Leave me comments, suggestions, tell me what you liked or didn't like, things that I wasted my time on camera that I should have just done beforehand, or things, conversely, that I should have gone into more detail. It's been a great ride. Thanks, everybody. Bye.